My name is Christopher Kai. I wrote this book called Big Game Hunting, Networking with Billionaires, Executives, and Celebrities. I was born and raised in New York City. My mom was a school teacher. My dad was a case manager. I didn't have a silver spoon. I had hand-me-down clothes. My mom would literally be making my hamburger sandwiches for lunch. And so I could have never imagined going to these type of events, meeting billionaires, working with billionaires, and literally traveling all around the world speaking about this stuff. So oftentimes when I talk about this stuff, the first thing they say is, oh my God, Chris, can I do that? Can I really do this? And I'm just like, you can, because if I could do it, you can do it. You want to make sure, just like you have a system for anything you do, like for instance, you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you go to the restroom, you go to work, you go to lunch, right? We have this specific routine, right? In life, if you want to network at the highest levels, you have to have a specific system. So what I did is created 20 specific strategies before, during, and after, and it's not about talk, it's about action. So we've all heard that term, knowledge is power. It's really applied knowledge is power. So going back to the term I said before, working the room is a complete waste of time if you're in the wrong room. So the first actionable item I want you to know is that if you want to network and grow your business with affluent clients, you have to work the right rooms. You have to go to the right places. Let me give you an example. I actually live in Beverly Hills, like Ty. I live closer to Wilshire Boulevard by the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, where for those of you who have watched and love Pretty Woman, they filmed that Pretty Woman movie at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And so if you just start going to those type of places, oh, surprise, surprise, I saw and bumped into Michael Milken. Michael Milken is a billionaire. He has a conference every year. Oh, surprise, surprise, I bumped into Marcus Lemonis. I bumped into Antoine Fuqua, who's the director of Training Day. I bumped into the guy who's the chairman and CEO of Carnival Cruise Line. So whenever people say, well, Chris, I don't live in Beverly Hills. I don't live in this swanky area. Well, go to where they are, not where you hope them to be. So tip number 2, go to where they are, not where you hope them to be. I remember when I actually interviewed Elon Musk, who, for those of you who might not know who Elon Musk is, people should know who he is, but he started 5 companies, Click2, PayPal, SpaceX, Tesla Motors, and Solar City. I convinced Elon Musk to come to the worst part of town at the largest shelter in the country in downtown and interview him for a half hour. Where did I meet him? Outside the Montage Hotel, a nice hotel in Beverly Hills, which, surprise, surprise, it's 3 blocks away from the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. So the second piece of advice is go to where they are, and that's literally where Elon Musk went from South Africa, then to Canada, then to the East Coast at the University of Pennsylvania, and then went to Silicon Valley. So make sure you literally go to where they are, work the right rooms, because you wasted all your time in life if you go into those places that you meet people that aren't adding value. And so what I'm going to do is this. The 5 people you essentially want to meet, and I always use acronyms. And so the first acronym I'm going to use is MICES. Because in life, if you want to learn, it's not about knowledge is power, it's about applied knowledge is power. So MICES stands for mentor, investors, clients, employees, and strategic partners. And so anytime you go to any networking event, you want to know your why. Why are you going to these events? Why are you going to these specific events to build your business? Now, so for looking at this list, MICES. If you know in your mind, hey, you know what, you meet someone, maybe that person can be a mentor. About 6 years ago, I went to a charity function, and a guy named Doug, very successful guy, he grosses about $100 million in profit. He has a whole portfolio of restaurants. Thankfully for me, he was very open about his success. And he said, yeah, I have this restaurant portfolio. I'm building my empire. I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm going to have $1 billion in gross revenue. I said, hey, Doug, I admire your success. I'd love to take you out for coffee or lunch and learn from you. He said yes. So literally, every month I would take him out for lunch, which ironically, again, he's a multimillionaire, and I wasn't at the time, right? So I take him out to lunch, and every single month I would take him out to lunch, and about 5 or 6 months into it, I said, you know what, I think I can help this guy. He ended up becoming a client. So I first got a mentor who ended up being a client. It took about 8 months in, but from that one client, I made about 70 grand. Too many of us focus on what do I say to them, what do I want from them. It's too much take, take, take. What I want to really, 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 really drill into your head is you have to listen, not just with your ears, but with your eyes and with your heart. Without listening with your heart, you're not listening, okay? So for Julian in Toronto, If you want to make an impression that you want to work with this person, what I suggest you do is you listen to the person's concern, listen to what they want, because when you have that in your mind, your heart, and your eyes, then you can really help them. So I wouldn't actually have any expectations of, oh yeah, I want to work with this guy. No. You want to just make sure that when you leave that room, he remembers your name, he remembers that he had a great time, and I'll give you two very, very specific suggestions. And by the way, this is not my opinion, by the way. A lot of my talks are based on actual science that I've actually read about. And so there are 4 what they call happy chemicals. They're called happy chemicals. And I have, going back to acronyms, because knowledge is not power, applied knowledge is power. You have dopamine. I'm not even going to write this all out. You know what? Because I want you to remember, okay? You actually forget 50% of what you learn in the first hour based on a book I read called Moonwalking with Einstein, The Art and Science of Remembering Everything. Moonwalking with Einstein is a great book. But going back to Julian's question, right? You want to make an impression, make sure you listen with your eyes, with your heart, with your ears, and make sure you focus on what are the interests that they have, their passions, and also who is the one person that he most loves spending your time with, okay? Who is the one person that he most loves spending time with? So I'll give you a very specific example. I was working with the U.S. Consulate of Jerusalem. They invited me to Israel and Palestine a few months ago. And I met this woman there in Jerusalem, the old city, the holy city. And I said, who is the one person you most love spending time with? And she said, you know what, Chris? I love spending time with my swimming partners. Every morning when I wake up at 8 o'clock, I get to swim with my swimming partners. And if I don't swim with them, I just feel depressed, and I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel doubtful. So literally, her entire physiology changes. Her physiology changes. And what's going on in her mind is that there's 4 happy chemicals. There's dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin. So literally, when you focus on a person's interest and their passions and their relationships, their whole physiology changes. So you can meet someone, talk to them, ask them their specific advice, ask them for their interest, and then when you leave, they're not even gonna know. They're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good when I hung out with Julian, and in time, you'll know that you'll be working with them. Okay, Julian? So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but ultimately, don't focus on impressing them on anything. Focus on listening, 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 always focusing on long-term relationships. It's not about short-term. It's not about a transaction. It's about transformation. Don't ever look at these people as more value than you just because they have more money, more status, more Twitter followers, right? The important thing is you have the value in yourself. So the question is, the body language. Make sure you roll your shoulders back, tuck your abs in, make sure you look at them in the eyes and smile, okay? So this is great body language. And you might not know this, but 93% of our communication effectiveness is based on nonverbal. Nonverbal is the words we use is only 7%, but the tone, someone said you're enthusiastic. Yeah, I do this for a reason. If I'm like talking like this the whole time, are you going to actually want to listen to me? If my body language is like this, hey everyone, I'm going to talk about networking with billionaires. You're not going to believe me, right? I roll my shoulders back, look you right in the camera, I say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I network with billionaires. Yeah, I hang out with celebrities. Because why? Not because I care about what they have in value. I care that they're changing the world. If I want to change the world, I want to hang out with them. But you see how I amped up my voice? And when I talk about my book, taking acting class, join Toastmasters. Taking acting class, join Toastmasters. It'll be the best investment of your life aside from my programs in the book and Ty's programs.